I'm like a lightning rod because I'm attacking New York's finest. They're self-proclaimed king of New York. You know what I mean?
And I think Puff is probably one of the only persons that heard that interview. Angie can't say that nobody heard that interview, because it wasn't her ideal not to put it out.
Did you feel at any point that you was like betraying New York or Biggie by going to do that interview with Tupac at that time?
His side of the story was like, how could I be mad at a whole coast? That don't even make sense.
Tupac hit us with Hit 'Em Up, and that joint was cold.
Plus, Puffy trying to see me weak, hearts I rip. Biggie Smalls and Junior Mafia, some more.
We would take your turntables, you played Hit 'Em Up. That thing hurt to this day.
Tupac may have warned us about Diddy long before anyone was ready to listen. In a rare interview that was kept hidden for years, Pac hinted that Diddy wasn't just a music mogul. He was running something darker behind the scenes. This wasn't just a beef between rappers. Tupac was calling out real danger. He talked about fear, control, and silence in the industry, and how Diddy seemed to be at the center of it all. People thought Pac was paranoid. But now, with new lawsuits and federal investigations, everything he said is starting to make sense. Back then, Tupac was one of the only voices brave enough to speak up. And what's even more shocking, this interview was blocked from the public, possibly by Diddy himself. That raises a serious question. What was in that full interview they didn't want us to hear?
Every time it benefits New York, he represents New York. When it don't benefit New York, now he's just another rapper. But y'all let him wear y'all.
But that wasn't the whole story. Tupac's hidden interview wasn't just a warning. It was a direct shot at Diddy's power. Pac talked about how Diddy controlled more than just music. He hinted that Diddy had people working for him in the streets, ready to handle things behind the scenes. Tupac believed that what happened to him at Quad Studios in 1994 wasn't random. He felt it was a setup, and that Diddy either knew about it or helped make it happen. These weren't wild guesses. Pac paid attention to how Diddy moved, who he kept around, and how people acted scared to speak. Tupac said Diddy wore New York's crown when it helped him, but stayed silent when things got messy. It was all about power and control.
I'm trying to find my way in the world, you know, I'm trying to be somebody instead of just make money off everybody. You know what I'm saying? And so I go down paths that haven't been traveled before, and I usually mess up. But I learn, you know what I'm saying? I come back stronger. You know, I'm not talking ignorant, you know what I'm saying? So I obviously put thought into what I do.
And according to Gene Deal, Diddy was one of the few people who actually heard that full interview and made sure it never saw the light of day. And what happened next would shock everyone. What made Tupac's words hit even harder was how real and unfiltered he was. He didn't just throw shade. He broke down how Diddy tried to become him. From the Versace shirts to the flashy lifestyle, Pac believed Diddy was copying his image just to stay relevant. But no matter how hard he tried, Diddy couldn't match Pac's energy. Pac had natural star power, while Diddy, according to people close to him, always came off insecure and desperate for attention. Even his Grammy speech sounded like something Pac had already said. Insiders said Diddy paid people to stay around him, while Pac had real love from the streets. And that jealousy, that need to be on top, might have pushed Diddy to take darker steps.
I was like, yo, Pac, so like, how much would you charge me to do an ad? And he sits down and he gets really quiet. It felt like he stayed quiet for an hour. And I'm thinking to myself, damn, I shouldn't have asked him. Then he looks at me and says, yo, I ain't gonna charge you for nothing. He says, you black, I don't charge my people for nothing. It was just the way he was. He just wanted to support the business. He knew what we were faced against. He knew how competitive the fashion industry was.
He was very intentional to make sure that I was seen. And I think bigger than everything, it's the fact that I see you and I want the world to see you. He said it was important because I was a black designer.
Pac saw it coming. He warned us, but too many brushed it off as rap drama. But Tupac's biggest warning was still yet to come. Tupac wasn't just worried about Diddy's image. He was concerned about his behavior, especially around young artists. Suge Knight later revealed that Pac believed some powerful figures in the industry were using their positions to manipulate and harm others. Tupac thought it was dangerous for certain producers and executives who lived double lives to have that kind of access and influence. He wasn't judging them for their lifestyle, but he was deeply worried about how they used their power. He even said he would do the research before calling anyone out because he wanted the truth, not rumors. And based on what Suge hinted, Pac may have been pointing at Diddy. That's why he wanted to speak out, not to gossip, but to protect young talent.
And that's not even to take away from him, but I know he's a weirdo. You know what I mean? Like, we've been hearing some stories about him that he been doing some weird things and moving weird, and he always been, you know what I mean? Always been a snake type of dude. So it's not surprising that when you hear all types of crazy stuff coming out now, you know what I mean? We always heard that he was, you know, moving in a strange way. And it wasn't surprising when we did hear like he was part of this and he put the hit out on Pac or he paid for it. It wasn't surprising for us because you gotta understand, like, he always been a very fidgety person. Like, you know, like a scary, nervous individual. Scary people with money do some scary things. You understand? Because he never was a person that was built to confront stuff on his own.
It's chilling now, considering the stories coming out about Diddy and people like Justin Bieber. And the interview didn't stop there. It got even more explosive. Tupac also exposed how Bad Boy Records operated more like a criminal network than a label. In the Lost interview, Pac allegedly said Diddy wasn't the top boss. He was just a front for something much bigger. Pac believed there were powerful people behind the scenes using Diddy to spread chaos in the black community. He said the music wasn't just entertainment. It was being used to push violence, division, and destruction. And the scariest part, Pac claimed the same people who owned the labels also owned private prisons. It was a setup from the top. The music pulled young people in, and the system was ready to profit when they fell. Tupac called it social engineering, controlling what artists could say, pushing violent songs, and silencing voices that tried to uplift. He was connecting the dots that most people didn't even see. But Pac didn't stop at the system. He had more to say about Diddy himself. Tupac made it clear, Diddy wasn't just copying his style, he was obsessed.
Everybody knew that Puff took Tupac blueprint and changed Biggs and Bad Boy in image. I Get Around, talked about how fly you was, how many girls you mess with, how many cars you drive, how much money you got, what you willing to do. He took his image. Pac was the first one on the scene wearing Versace shirts. He went and got the same Versace shirts Pac had. Which, all right, some dudes would do that. You would never catch me wearing something else, something that somebody else got. He was knocking down all the women that he thought Pac was knocking down. But Puff had an obsession with him for whatever reason it was, because he started wanting to act. He started wanting to rap. He had an obsession so bad that at his Grammy Award winning speech, he used the same speech that Pac used.
People close to both men said Diddy tried to dress like Pac, act like Pac, and even chase the same women. There were rumors he got jealous when Kim Porter showed interest in Tupac, and that it sparked tension between them. Diddy wanted the fame, the love, and the respect that came to Pac naturally. But no matter how much money or power he had, he couldn't get that same connection to the people, and that drove him mad.
I'm the hardest hustler in the world. This is Savage Part 2. Don't tell me about It's 2022 and I'm still a savage. Whatever I want, I get. Whatever I want, I get.
Even at award shows, Diddy used lines that Pac had already said, as if trying to steal his shine. Some say Diddy's obsession turned into hatred, and that's when things got dangerous. Pac saw it all happening and tried to speak up before it was too late, but what he said next made people question everything about the music industry. Tupac believed the music industry was being used as a weapon, and Diddy was one of its tools. In the interview, Pac allegedly said that record companies were not just pushing artists, they were pushing a plan. He believed labels picked which songs made it big, choosing violence and chaos over positivity. It wasn't about talent, it was about control. Pac said certain executives made sure only destructive messages got through, while uplifting ones got blocked. He even claimed some records were made by committee, meaning label heads told artists what to say and how to say it. And behind it all, Pac warned, were the same people who owned prisons. The goal? Fill cells by first filling minds with violence. Tupac saw the trap and tried to warn us, but at the time, many thought he was just ranting. And just when you think it couldn't get deeper, Pac exposed even more names. Tupac didn't just speak in general terms, he allegedly named names. He pointed fingers at powerful people in the industry who were pulling strings behind the scenes. One rumored target was Andre Harrell, the late founder of Uptown Records, who had a close relationship with Diddy. Suge Knight hinted that Pac believed some of these men were using their positions for shady purposes, especially around younger talent.
If it was a rapper who was fake and they were only doing it for the money, Pac attacked him. If it was a rapper that messed with guys and go both ways, Pac didn't feel that was good. Because Pac felt he was real serious about the music. So if you're a producer or you rap, and regardless if you're married or not, and you got a boyfriend that works for you, a real boyfriend who used to be a dancer, Pac would studied all the facts. Pac was real smart. So before he say something, he'd go and do his homework. He'd say, okay, this guy right here,
They say he gay, he go both ways. I'm not gonna put it out there on him yet, but I'm gonna do my research, and if it's true, the world should know. Because this guy might be around one of those little kids one day and mess around with them, and you know, so I'm gonna do it to actually save him from molesting a little child. That's why Pac attacked certain rappers and said they gay.
And because Diddy started out as a dancer, Pac and others felt that he might have been protected by these same insiders. Soog said Pac did his homework. He didn't call someone out unless he had facts. That's why his warnings carried weight. He wasn't trying to expose people for drama. He wanted to protect the next generation. But the deeper he went, the more dangerous it became.
First of all, I'd like to thank God. Second of all, I'd like to thank my whole entire Death Row family on both sides, you know what I'm saying? I'd like to tell Tupac to keep his guards up. We ride with him. And one other thing I'd like to say, any artist out there want to be an artist and want to stay a star, and don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the videos, all on the record, dancing. Come to Death Row.
As Tupac kept speaking out, the pressure to silence him started to build. He wasn't just criticizing Diddy, he was pulling back the curtain on an entire system. Pac believed that if the public heard the full truth, it could shake the industry. That's likely why the full Angie Martinez interview was buried. According to Gene Deal, it wasn't Angie's decision to keep it hidden. It was Diddy's. Diddy had strong ties to Hot 97 at the time and could make calls to shut things down.
And what's going down with that? So I wanted to get his view, and here goes a little something.
The East Coast, West Coast thing is a musical thing. That's separate. That's a whole thing separate to itself. That's a musical thing. When we have been beefing about whose music is better or which is this or which is that from the beginning. It has because I'm like a lightning rod because I'm attacking New York's finest. They're self-proclaimed king of New York. You know what I mean? I'm attacking them so because nobody's separating themselves from them. They still talking about how raw. Yes, they still talking about how raw he is and woo woo woo. He's a representative. He represents New York.
There are a lot.
Every time it benefits New York, he represents New York. When it don't benefit New York, now he's just another rapper. But y'all let him wear y'all colors. You let him shout y'all shit out. When Biggie came out here, he screamed out, "Brooklyn's in the house." We don't beat to say why you starting a war. Why is everybody when I say West Side, it hurt people feelings?
I don't think it's because you're saying West Side. I think because
they think they own me.
Nah, not at all. I think it's because, you know, Dog Pound video came out, New York, and I'm not saying you was in the video. I know you wasn't in the video.
I wasn't in it. I didn't write it. I didn't produce the beat.
All right, so let's take that.
I was in jail. The album was done while I was in jail. That's separate.
It just, you know what it is? It's New York's visualizing your camp, which to them is Death Row, which is Dog Pound, which is Snoop, and which is, you know, which is that whole thing. And it was all one time. The New York video came out. You know, brothers was stepping on cars in New York, stepping on, you know, on New York like they owned it. Boom, you come out, next video, West
What about the video? Yes, it is, to me, it is the best coast. And everybody in New York feel like that, too. That's why they come out here and party, man. Why is everybody acting like... I'm not saying... I didn't say... For me to say Cali is the West Coast, I never said New York ain't shit. I never said New York is the worst coast. I just said where I'm at, where I'm from is the best coast. Why is that offending people?
Gene even said Diddy was one of the only people who heard the entire 2-hour interview. And if Pac really said what insiders claim he did, about the street connections, the setups, and the powerful names behind it all, then Diddy had every reason to keep it from getting out. But the final twist in this story still leaves fans stunned to this day. The most shocking part of all this, Tupac may have lost his life trying to tell the truth. He wasn't just another rapper in a beef, he was a whistleblower, a man who saw what was really going on and tried to warn the world. He exposed Diddy's obsession, the shady power plays, and the people in charge who were using hip-hop to push pain for profit. And he did it at a time when no one wanted to hear it. The industry was too afraid, too controlled, too invested in keeping the machine running. Pac didn't have the luxury of silence. He believed speaking out was worth a risk, and that's what makes his message so powerful today. All these years later, the same names are back in the headlines, the same stories are being confirmed, and now people are finally listening. But what if they had listened back then? What if that full interview had been released? Would Pac still be alive? We may never know the full truth, but one thing is clear. Tupac was way ahead of his time, and the fact that his words still echo today proves he was onto something big. If you think Pac was trying to blow the lid off a bigger plot, drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives just like this.